Meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Circo.
Present.
Councilmember Ingert.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Mills.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have no presentations or personal appearances this evening, so I'll go right to the staff report. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report for Development Services.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, in your packet this evening is a report for the month of January. We did start this month off with 11 permits, which is an uptick from last January in 2024 compared to the 2 permits we had at that time. So a good start to our calendar year for construction activity. Some building activity that I did want to report on. We did, I think at the last meeting I reported that we had some interest from Einstein Brothers as a anchor tenant at the commercial building that's currently under construction. We did finally issue their permit. So there's still some ongoing work with the shell building that they're working on, but they should be starting work on the actual tenant space here in the next couple of weeks, which will be good to see here in that storefront. And then some work that's gone unseen. Down at the Commerce Center, both Newly and Southern Glazers have continued to expand and kind of continue to modernize some of their equipment. Mr. Warner, our building official, completed the inspections on Newly's second sorter for their operations and some new sorting equipment for Southern Glazers as well. Southern Glazers has added a uptick in employees since they closed their distribution center in St. Louis. So this makes the Raymore location the distribution center for the entire state. So they continue to build out that facility to take on those additional loads. So a lot of inspections going on down there from the building inspections division. That would conclude my staff report. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you might have.
David, yeah, I noticed that, you know, so several weeks ago they were doing some dirt work there behind Firestone to the north. I noticed now that that's an infrastructure project that's going on, that are actually putting in water and sewer lines. Is that in preparation for something that we're not yet made aware of, or have we heard anything at all out of block?
So what they're doing is simply making that a pad, 2 or 3 pad-ready sites, depending on how much work they continue to do. There's no approved development plans other than the infrastructure plans that they have for the water and sewer and other utilities. So any prospective tenants or end users that they have will still have to come forward with a formal site plan that will be approved hopefully by the Planning and Zoning Commission. But it is part of the Raymore Galleria North development, but they don't have any approved development plans at this point.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you, David. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. I would ask Chief to make a report for the Police Department.
Evening, Mayor and Council. It's that time of year again. I'm going to do a few comments on our year, excuse me, our year-end numbers, and I apologize if I start coughing. The Group A NIBRS scored crime this year. We had 805 scorable offenses, which is 125 more than the previous year, which is 19% increase. Of those, 267 were cleared, which kept us about 33% overall clearance rate. Last year, if you recall, we were at 34%. Fortunately, no homicides last year. Overall, 652 arrests, which is 40 more than the previous year. Investigations took in, I found a few more than what you have listed on your sheet that I handed out, which is 424 cases, and they cleared 167 with an overall clearance rate of 39%. The national rate's going to be right around 37%. Felony domestic assaults increased by 350%. We went from 2 to 9. Side note, additional cases, we have 56 additional cases at the Cass County Prosecutor's Office awaiting filing decision. On the second page that you have in front of you, you will note that the total CAT events were up by 4,460, which is 9% increase. Raymore PD events total 31,797, a 13% increase from 27,950 events. Raymore PD report totals 2,573, a 7% increase from 2,408. Total phone calls, this is kind of an interesting number. Total phone calls went up by 5,903. Interesting enough, the total emergency calls went down by 440, which is a good thing. Lastly, I have a note in here about the flock safety information. We had 13 arrests, 5 recovered stolen vehicles, 7 stolen license plates, and I have listed as 48 investigative leaves, but I think there's just a few more than that. And that's my report this evening.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody have any questions for the chief at this time? Thank you, sir. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Chief. Would remind the council that on April 8th, there is a public safety sales tax that's going to be on the ballot. Next week, trying to get the council's flavor on this, would the council be okay? It's President's Day, so there's no chance for a meeting on Monday night. Would the council be okay? There is not going to be a planning and zoning meeting with me. We're getting some backup on some work session issues. Would the council be available on the 18th, the Tuesday? One of the primary reasons on that is we had discussed with you all last week these residential development standards that are in place or that we'd like to get into place. Go do kind of a checklist with you all. We have been able to construct those, and that would be one of the primary items we'd like to bring to you all so that we're continuing to move that item forward. Again, that's a preliminary item. If the council's willing to have it and council members aren't there, the checklist would still be out there for people to be able to weigh in on it for the final ordinance that we'd be bringing to you all. But would the council be okay with meeting that night?
Anyone opposed to that evening? Looks like Mr. Mill. I'm sorry. I was looking at Brian on the phone. Go ahead, sir. Mr. Burke.
I will not be there. I have tickets.
Okay, gotcha. Mr. Mills, gonna be available?
As far as I know, I should be available.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, so we'll,
Post accordingly, and
Go ahead
thank you all
and
very
schedule it.
much. That concludes staff reports tonight, sir.
all right, thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions of staff before we move on? All right, so moving right along, we move on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items. One of the items has 2 resolutions attached to it regarding the STEP grant for the police department. I would entertain a motion to dispose of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman,
so I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented to include item A, the city council meeting minutes from the January 27th, 2025 meeting, and item B, the approval of the Safety Traffic Enforcement Program, otherwise known as STEP, under resolutions 2505 and 2506.
thank you, sir. I see that we had 2 members absent, Ms. Abdelgawad and Mr. Mills, for the that particular meeting. Does that require abstention from the approval of the? Should we separate those? Are you good? Go ahead.
I watched the meeting,
Okay.
even though I wasn't present, so I'm comfortable
You good with
voting
that?
on the
Okay.
minutes.
Excellent. All right. You, Mr. Mills, do we need it segregated out?
I will abstain as I did not have an opportunity to watch it with being in the hospital.
Okay. So if we could amend the motion to each item, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir, I'll amend my original motion. We'll begin
Oh,
with,
hold on. Mr. Zur is saying.
I don't believe there's a need for him to amend it. Councilmember Mills simply said he would abstain for the vote at this particular time.
Well, you know,
You're
but
still
we
gonna
had the
pass
new
by-
resolutions involved with that, and I wanted them to be able to vote on the resolutions.
Okay.
The STEP grant resolutions.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Mills.
so I'll amend my motion, and I'll break it into 2 parts. The first motion will be to approve the first part of the consent agenda as presented to include the city council meeting minutes from the meeting on January 27th, 25. I'll make a follow-up motion after we vote.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve item A of the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Abstain.
Thank you. We have 7 yes and 1 abstention. Mr. Holman?
Sir, I'll make a motion that we approve the second half of tonight's consent agenda as presented to include the approval of the Safety Traffic Enforcement Program, otherwise known as STEP, under Resolutions 2505 and Resolution 2506.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Abdelgawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve item B of the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3938 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3938 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving an agreement with Mid-America Regional Council Solid Waste Management District relating to the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Program.
Thank you, ma'am. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move that we approve Bill 3938, the Household Hazardous Waste Agreement with the Mark Solid Waste Management District.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Abdelgawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3938. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Motion's carried unanimously. We'll now move on to the next item. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3942 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3942 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Central Power Systems and Services for preventative emergency generator maintenance and repairs.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move that we approve Bill 3942, award of contract to Central Power Systems and Services for preventative emergency generator maintenance.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Abdelgawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3942. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3946 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3946 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Fat Boy Electric, Inc. to provide on-call electrical services for the City of Raymore.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Murdock to make a staff report on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bill 3946 is for our on-call electrical services. This would include any of our maintenance repairs, adding any electrical that we need throughout all of our city facilities. And so we did issue an RFP for this particular service. We were pleased with the responses. We had 4 responses, and I believe on your agenda item, we did include the chart that had those hourly rates. Fat Boy Electric did come in to be the lowest and best bidder, and after checking references, staff would recommend approval for this particular contract. Ben Stallings is the president of Fat Boy Electric, and he is in the audience tonight should you have any questions about this particular contract. And similar to some of our other buildings and grounds contracts, I did want to make sure and note that this contract is 1 year, but with the option for those 1-year renewals each of the following 2 years. So I did want to make sure that you were aware of that. That concludes staff report on this item.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions of staff or Mr. Stallings at this point? If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move that we approve Bill 3946, award of contract to Fat Boy Electric, Inc. for maintenance services on-call electrical services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Abdelgawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3946. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Thank you. Motion
Yes.
carried Nope, sorry. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3947 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3947 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Martin Mechanical Contractors for preventative maintenance services of HVA systems for city facilities.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thanks, sir. I would ask Mr. Murdock to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Bill 3947 for the preventative maintenance covers 4 or quarterly inspections of all of our HVAC systems throughout all of our city facilities. So this is going to include City Hall, Public Works, Animal Control, the RAC, our Parks Maintenance Facility, and Centerview. In the past, we've had Lippert as our contractor, but this year, after the RFP was issued, Martin Mechanical is deemed to be the lowest and best bidder for this particular contract. Those rates are also contained within your packet, including, again, those options for the one-year renewal, so what those prices will be in the coming years as well. And so we do have Justin Pacetto from Martin Mechanical over there in the audience with us. So if you have any questions of Martin Mechanical or about this contract, we'd be happy to answer them at this time. But that does conclude staff report, and we do recommend approval of this contract.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff or Mr. Martin? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman,
sir, I move that we approve Bill 3947, award of contract to Martin Mechanical Contractors for preventative maintenance services for city HVAC systems.
thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Abdel-Gawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3947. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I please have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
I'll let you in that time. Sorry, Brian. Motion carries unanimously. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3941 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3941 by title only, an ordinance reappointing Ross Nigro Jr. as municipal judge for the City of Raymore.
Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. The council will remember that at one of your December executive sessions, we did discuss renewing Judge Nigro's contract. The council did express a desire to have me enter into negotiations with the judge to see first if he would be interested in continuing, and second, what the terms of that renegotiation would be. He did indicate his desire to continue serving as our municipal court judge. As such, we kind of went into some negotiations. It would be staff's recommendation, my recommendation, that the council renew this contract for a 2-year term with an increase from its current $18,838 annually to an amount of $20,838 annually, an increase of $2,000 a year. That concludes staff report on this item, sir.
Thank you, sir. I see that the judge is with us in the audience this evening. Judge Nigro, welcome. Would you care to address the council at this time, sir?
I didn't have anything prepared to address, but I would love the opportunity to continue as the judge here. I enjoy this city. I enjoy my opportunity to serve this city. I enjoy the support I receive from this city as well as this board, so I enjoy if you'd keep me on to continue another couple of years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions for me? I guess I should wait.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody have
I
any
used to be
questions?
on this side, Your Honor.
I know, right?
I was
Mr.
just
Holman.
going to say it's a rare circumstance where we get to sit up here and have a judge come up and in front of us.
Well, I will tell you, if none of you have been to Judge Nigro's court, it's very efficient. It's very well run. He's probably one of the most savvy lawyers to handle this position that I've had the fortunate to be friends with and to know professionally as well. And I really appreciate the way he handles our court, and I think the city of Belton thinks the same way too. So it'd be awesome to keep you here, sir. So thank you. I appreciate your interest in staying on. So I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3941, reappointment of Ross Nigro as the municipal judge for the city of Raymore.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Abdul-Gawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3941. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdul-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Thank you all. Motion carries unanimously. And again, thank you, Judge, for being here tonight. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3943 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3943 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, appointing Kapke Willerth LLC as the city attorney and special prosecutor and authorizing the execution of a contract for services.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. At that same executive session in December, the council did authorize me to enter into negotiations with Mr. Zur and Kapke Willerth for them to continue as the city's general counsel as well as a special prosecutor for the city for the next 2-year period. During those negotiations, Mr. Zur and I did come to an agreement for recommendation to the city council. The only changes to the contract is an increase in the per hour to reflect an hourly rate of $275 per hour for partners and $200 for associates of the firm who would be working on city business, and that the contract for special prosecutor be changed to a flat fee per month of $550 a month. Staff does recommend this contract to the council, and that concludes staff report.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions of staff? Again, with Mr. Zur, it has been an honor to serve with him these last few years, especially through the breach that we went through with the landfill. All of you know how much work he and staff put into that particular situation, and he does just as much work on the everyday business that we do around here, and I've always appreciated his sage advice, and I hope you've felt the same. So if there's no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we approve Bill 3943, award of contract for city attorney services to Kapke and Willerth and Mr. Jonathan Zur.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Abdul-Gawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3943. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdul-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Thank you all. Motion carries unanimously. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3944 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3944 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Raymore Gateway Final Plat, Lots 1 and 2, a subdivision of land located in the southwest quarter of Section 8, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. Assuming he can still talk, I'm going to call on Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, the requested action before you all this evening is the final plat for the Raymore Gateway project, which is generally located at the northeast corner of 58 Highway and Kentucky Road. In essence, it's the last step that's required as part of the Chick-fil-A project and the redevelopment of that property. It formally establishes the property lines of the property and creates 2 developable lots where there were once 1. On this property, there are several existing easements that were existing before this project and 2 new easements that were needed as part of the construction of the infrastructure for Chick-fil-A. And so again, when the Ryan's Steakhouse was built at early 90s, a final plat was not required. So that would be why the property has not been platted since it was annexed into the city. As the Chick-fil-A project has wrapped up, including their final landscaping, staff has worked with them to review all those easements and make sure they're still in place for the benefit of those users. As we work towards trying to position the remaining piece of that lot, which currently is undeveloped, for future development, this creates Lot 2, which would be the location of that hopeful future development. In the staff report includes the surrounding zoning of the property and uses of the property around it. The Planning and Zoning Commission did meet on February 4th and recommended at a vote to 8-0 to recommend approval of this item to City Council. Would be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions of staff at this time? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman,
sir, I move that we approve Bill 3944, the Raymore Gateway Final Plat Lots 1 and 2.
thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Abdel-Gawad. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3944. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to the public comments section. If anyone from the public would care to address the council this evening, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. See no one coming forward, so I'll close the public hearing at this time, and we'll move on to the mayor-council communications. And Mr. Baker, I'll start with you this evening, sir.
Nothing really much tonight, other than welcome to our guests in the audience tonight. It's always good to see people from the community here in person at a council meeting, so thank you for coming, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Circo.
I don't have much, but my Chiefs kind of fell apart. But you know what? We've been with them many years, so they're going to come back next year. They're going to be bigger and better and have an offensive line, and then we'll be fine.
I would agree with that. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to follow that with, it's baseball time now, so.
That's right.
Football's behind us. But speaking of the audience, I want to recognize somebody in the audience, a dear family friend. She's here to satisfy a class. She's working on her doctorate in physical therapy. And so someday pretty soon, she's going to be Dr. Carpenter. So welcome, McKinley.
Welcome. Ms. Abdel-Gawad.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Ingert?
Just real quick, I'd like to thank Mr. Zur. I'm glad you're staying on board with us, sir. I always admire your hard work and dedication, and the advice that you give always seems to be first class. And then it was kind of interesting to see as we went through the agenda tonight, the confidence that we have in the staff's ability to do the best for Raymore. Every item that we went through was unanimous, 8-0. And it was real impressive to watch that. And in other words, to be a part of it as well on my part. So thank you, everybody, for their hard work and their dedication.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holman?
I concur wholeheartedly with Mr. Ingert's comments. I could not have said it that well myself. I yield the remainder of my time to the Honorable Mr. Burke and yourself, sir.
Okay. Mr. Burke. I still have
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mills, too.
That's right. Thank you. It has not stopped being soccer season at any time, I don't believe. So I've been going to soccer every other week, seeing Mr. Engert there at Independence Event Center. And then another soccer team starts next week. So it's always going. We're getting ready for the World Cup. But what I really want to talk about was Public Works. Appreciate in advance. Get some extra sleep tonight because might be a rough week. Hopefully not, but thank you in advance.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
The only thing I have to say is I thank the council and the mayor for allowing me to participate remotely. I did get into the rehab center Thursday afternoon, so the tough work is going on now, and the goal is hopefully maybe next Wednesday or Friday I'll be able to head home.
Great. That'd be awesome. Thank you, sir. And this evening, so I had the opportunity to attend the executive roundtable that started right after our successful story of killing a landfill, done by the Mid-America Regional Council and the Solid Waste Management District. Diana Bryant is the new director of the Solid Waste Management District, and she has been a treasure. I'm telling you right now, this lady knows her business, and she works very hard at what we're planning. And our planning is that we're in our we just had our third meeting today. They happen quarterly, and by this meeting, they had completed a consultant study with Metabolic to offer us a granular look at the solid waste tonnage, where it comes from, the type of solid waste that is generated by the metropolitan area and where most of that goes to, and offering wonderful suggestions on how to segregate that landfill trash into areas of opportunity for remanufacturing, refurbishing, recycling. It was a wonderful report that was summarized today for us that Metabolic gave us. By the end of the week, I will have in my hand that report, and I will be forwarding it to all of you. I have also invited Miss Bryant and her team to come to our work session and provide that same report, more of an executive summary, so that you get the big stuff that came out of that report and the direction that we're moving in the future. Great team of municipal workers, county officials. I think they're myself and Mayor Larson from Sugar Creek are the only two mayors in the room, but the true professionals in the area of solid waste. Great contingency from Kansas City, who frankly I saw as the enemy previously, but now have been offering some great input on this entire process and what they are doing in the areas of research and trying to change the way they handle their solid waste as well. And so there is a grassroots effort here to move in a much better direction for our metropolitan area. And besides, there was I forget where it was, Charlotte, and then there was another city, I can't remember the name of the other city now, that is doing pretty much the same things we're doing, but is a little further ahead of us from a Kansas City metropolitan region effort that are working toward other areas for the diversion of solid waste to landfill. And so I'm going to have them come to us. It's going to be on March 17th. I know it's St. Patty's Day, but that is a Monday night work session. And I wanted to give you guys a heads up so you make sure you can try to be here, because it really does show how hard the Solid Waste Management District and the Mid-America Regional Council are working towards solutions so that no other community has to go through what the city of Raymore went through. And I'm really proud of the work that they've done. So we're looking forward to that meeting coming up on March the 17th. I know you'll all be anxiously awaiting, but I will forward that report to you as well by the end of the week when I get it, so you have an opportunity to look through it and maybe take some notes on questions you might want to add. There were a lot of great questions today on that report. But they seem to be very learned about what types of industries are out there that may be cost prohibitive, but some that do exist that allow for the diversion of solid waste to really meaningful areas of recycling and rehab and reuse that we're hoping that this area of Kansas City will get their arms around and move in that direction. Be a great change for us for the future. Anyway, that's all I have this evening. Again, thank you to staff for your great work, as several council members said. And do we have a reason to go to executive session? You do not? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we adjourn this February 10th, 2025 meeting of the Raymore City Council.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Mills?
Yes.